This video highlights a case study done on the SimplerGov implementation at the City of Long Beach. Several city and county governments all across the state of California currently benefit from the power, ease of use, and flexibility of SimplerGov. Three of these users, the County of Santa Cruz, County of Sonoma, and the City of Long Beach, rely on the FAMIS application, very similar to CalSTARS used by the state of California, for their general accounting system. The City of Long Beach, California's sixth largest city, provides just one great example of how SimplerGov greatly enhances and complements the FAMIS application. FAMIS, originally developed by KPMG, was later sold to Tier Technologies, and as of today is owned and supported by Cogsdale, headquartered in Canada on Prince Edward Island. Two of the team members that developed and have supported FAMIS since the 80s assisted in the SimplerGov implementation at the City of Long Beach. Before the SimplerGov implementation, many challenges with FAMIS were widely reported at Long Beach. Most of these challenges had to do with access to relevant data and frustrations with slow, inefficient, and labor-intensive data gathering processes. After the SimplerGov implementation, a variety of analysts and managers at the city were interviewed to get their reaction to SimplerGov. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Let's take a closer look at some of the new functionality Long Beach employees were so happy about with SimplerGov. This SimplerGov screen gives me a listing of the templates Long Beach has set up to search for and work with their FAMIS data. Under Financial Summaries, I see Revenue and Expenditures, General Ledger, also PO and Blanket Purchase Order data. Down here I can look up transactions as well as projects and grants. And I have a search tool for looking up the chart of accounts, funds, GL accounts, and so on. I can also look up things like vendors and transaction codes, things that are unique to FAMIS. And over here I have a number of budget-related reports, grouped by ETC, estimate to close, and BPS, a budget projection system. So let's look at just a few of these reports, starting with revenue and expenditures. Long Beach has access to data all the way back to the mid-90s. I'm going to look at last fiscal year. I can summarize the report by any of the chart of accounts. I'm going to roll everything up by department. And here you quickly see the expenditures for last fiscal year by department, totaling just over $3 billion. Now throughout SimplerGov, I can always drill down on report totals simply by clicking on them. For example, here I want to see the detail on the airport's $42.5 million. One click and here are all the airport transactions, 66 pages worth. I can sort by any of the column headings to make the report more readable. For example, if I click on amount, the report sorts by lowest to highest transaction amount. And I can quickly jump to the last page if I want to and scroll down to see the largest transactions and my $42.5 million total. Now let's go back and look at the expenditures report in a slightly different way. I'm going to sort by department again, but this time add a second level of detail. So now we see the same report, but under each department I have subtotals broken down by character. Now I want to see even more detail on this report. So I'm going to go back in and ask for yet another level of detail. But this time I want to see expenditures for just a few departments. So I go down to Departments Criteria and open up my list builder. This is a tool that's used throughout the SimplerGov interface. And I pick three departments: the Fire Department, Harbor Department, and Police Department. Now when I run the report, I see an even greater level of detail for these three departments. There's the Fire Department, Harbor Department, and Police Department. Now I could click on the overtime total to drill down here, but I'm going to go at it a little different because I want to see OT for all three departments on one page. So I'm just going to copy the code for overtime and hit Control V on my keyboard to paste that code in, and now I see the OT numbers for all of those departments. Now I can do a lot of things once I'm happy with this report. I can go over and click Save and save it to my shortcuts so it's available in one click for me the next time I want it. I can click once and export it to a PDF. Or I can click once and export it as a CSV file. Or I can click once and export it to Excel. And not only do the values and page breaks come over to Excel, the formulas come over as well. So if I make a change to a value here, I see it reflected immediately in the totals. Let's go back and look at some of the other reports. Let's take a quick look at the general ledger. I'm going to choose last fiscal year end, and I want to summarize the report by fund and by GL account class. And I just want to look at one fund this time. Let's say the general fund, so I put in the fund number 100. And here we have asset and liability accounts, equity accounts, operating accounts, and so on. We also have data and reports for purchase orders. Again, I'll look at last fiscal year end. Let's summarize by vendor. And here's a 16-page report showing a summary of all the vendor POs. And again, I can always click on totals to drill down to more detail. For example, I want to drill down on the $226,000 paid to one of the construction vendors, and here's more detail on those purchase orders. Now let's go back and take a look at a budget report. Let's say I want to see how the 2010 budget looks by department. So here's the breakdown by department with columns for base salary, skill pay, retirement, insurance, and so on, to their totals down here. Now let's take a look at that same report, but this time I'm going to summarize by bargain unit. So here's the same budget report as before, but this time we see totals by bargain unit instead of department. I can also run an employee report by bargain unit. I've hidden the names and social security numbers here, but I can see a breakdown for each bargain unit by position. Lastly, let's take a quick look at the budget ad hoc report. This report lets me set different values for up to 10 columns for comparison. For example, here I'm going to look at actuals for July of 2010, May of 2010, December of 2009, and I'm going to add adjusted budget figures for November of 2009. Totals for my 4 choices appear side by side in columns for easy comparison. And as always, drill down to more detail is just one click away. These are just a few high-level examples of how SimplerGov enhances and complements FAMIS, and why the City of Long Beach is singing its praises. Thanks for watching.